Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Fighter Heart podcast. I'm Joe Rizzo, and I'm here with Josh today. What's going on, Josh?
Not much, just staying busy, having fun.
Oh, good. I got a gnat over here. So we like to get into it pretty quickly over here. So if you could just give us a little brief description of where you grew up, where you're from, and get into your Fighter Heart story.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be able to share my life and kind of where it's taken me and the things I've learned so far. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and just I don't know, normal kid growing up in a concrete jungle, city style, more suburb than city, but kind of a normal childhood. I didn't get into too many sports until later in life where I picked up. Well, actually, that's not true. My mom had me doing a lot of sports at a young age, but they were all just kind of recreationally, like signed you up for t-ball, signed you up for flag football and basketball, and so there really wasn't anything that was that stuck out to me, and um, eventually now being more into the elite para athletic world, it's kind of funny looking back and thinking how much of an athlete I wasn't. Uh, but yeah, it was just kind of a normal kid growing up.
And you say you're from
Arizona.
Arizona? You're in Arizona?
Yeah, Glendale, Arizona.
Oh, beautiful. So where does the Fighter Heart kind of story come in?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that started, I would say initially with the fact that my family got me into Boy Scouts and kind of got me into already at a young age thinking more about, others and kind of serving a bigger purpose, which I believe ultimately led me to joining the military straight out of high school. Um, Served for almost 6 years, and eventually what ended up happening was I stepped on an IED while I was deployed in Afghanistan. So an improvised explosive device, essentially a big bomb. When I was deployed to Afghanistan with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines as a scout sniper, we were out on patrol and basically set into an area. Didn't realize that we were starting to get bunched up as we were trying to get to a different area. And I was like, oh, we got to get going. And I stood up, turned around, stepped on the bomb, and then from there it was immediately kind of fight or flight. And I had an amazing corpsman that took care of me. Um, and the rest of, I don't know, everybody else that was there with the Marines in Afghanistan helping to get me to the hospital essentially. And then it was, I think that is where it turned into what am I doing now and what can I learn from this and how can I help others with the things that I'm learning and doing.
So walk me through it a little bit. So you turned around and stepped on this what is it? IED?
IED, yeah, improvised explosive device is bomb.
And it's like what, hidden in in under sand or like like you didn't see it?
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously.
this was actually like I was on a I guess if you could think of it like a back patio where there was a roof over, it was kind of like a back patio. It was in this it was a just like a ton of walls and buildings and it was funny because I remember thinking, there was like 6 windows and they were all cut out, right? And it was in Nowzat, Afghanistan, which turned into essentially the training grounds for um, whoever was trying to fight us at that time to go and learn different tactics and techniques there. But the whole place was littered with bombs that they had put underground, and so it was kind of known that they were there, and we were supposed to be watching out for them. And so, as I'm looking at these like 6 or 7 windows that spanned across um, but there was one main opening in the middle, and I remember thinking, like, if I was if I was somebody planning to try to blow somebody up, would I want to go through? Would I expect them to go through the opening? So would I put an IED there, or would I expect them to not go through the main opening and try to go through a side window? And would I put it? So I was kind of like stuck in, what am I going to do? What should I do? So I was like, all right, well, I'll take a quick halt. And that's when everybody started to kind of, there was 10 of us out, but like you want to stay spaced out. So not a whole lot of individuals, like when the blast went off, not all of us got hurt. And that was when I looked around and was like, there was like 3 or 4, or 5 of us starting to get, a little too close. And I was like, oh, I got to go. So I turned around and I didn't even have to make the decision because the bomb went off as soon as I turned around. I honestly don't even know if I had chosen where I was going to go. And then from there, I just remember laying on the ground and the corpsman coming over and the other Marines coming over and just starting to take all of my equipment off so that they could get me on a stretcher and then start to administer whatever life-saving procedures they had to do, which tourniquets and bandages. And then 2.5 hours later, they finally got me on a helicopter because there were so many IEDs in the area and there was mortar rounds that were going off and landing in the area, that because essentially when the bomb goes off, that's when all the fighting starts, right? So whoever's fighting us, the Taliban or whoever's out there, starts shooting and sending everything they can because they know where we are. It was
were
crazy.
Conscious for the whole thing?
Yeah, it was just enough to hurt me but not knock me out. So it was, and it's crazy, like thinking back on it now. I mean, I've been hurt now for I don't know, I can't even do the math right now. That was October of 2009.
Oh, 2009. Wow.
Yeah, that was October 28th of 2009. So, we're
15 years.
15 years. But looking back, it was crazy how there's the adrenaline rush and then it's almost like your body just doesn't give up, but you just kind of get into this state of like, it was like a very just, all right, like what's going to happen? I'm at the mercy of whoever's taking care of me. Unfortunately, I had an amazing crew that knew everything they needed to do and got me out of there and to the hospital so that they could start doing everything they could to keep me alive.
Was there any pain or was it like adrenaline? You were numb?
No, it was painful. I mean, I remember but it was more the tourniquets around my legs had to be so tight so that I wouldn't lose too much blood or whatever. And so I just remember my legs, the tourniquets felt like somebody was just like squeezing super hard. Or like if you wear if you tie your shoe too tight and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to loosen this thing up. I just remember that kind of feeling where it was painful, but there's really nothing I could do. So it was kind of it was a weird, I almost think of, it would be the equivalent of like an ice bath nowadays where people jump in the ice bath and you're just trying to control your breathing and you're just trying to do everything you can to not freak out.
So what do you remember? Did you fall asleep at all? Or like, did they do surgery on you? Like, how did it go?
Yeah, they did not. Yeah, it was like when we were out in the field, I remember I was starting to get tired. And I mean, honestly, probably starting to give up on myself a little bit, like just ready to be like, all right, I'll throw it in the towel. I'm good. And I just remember the corpsman had assigned somebody to come sit by me and my radio guy at the time. And basically his whole job was just to sit there, talk on the radio and hit me and like on the shoulder and make sure that I stayed awake. And talk to me and try to keep me engaged because he was worried that if I fell asleep or something and go into a coma and then who knows what would happen. Yeah. But finally they call it a dock in the box. It's essentially a container on top of a 7-ton truck. They got me carried out to that after 2.5 hours. And when I got into the truck, they put a mask on me and that's, passed out. And then after that, I just remember waking up when I was getting transferred on an airplane from Germany to the United States, Bethesda, Maryland. And I was like kind of in and out, foggy. They had me on all kinds of stuff, drugs to keep me comfortable, I suppose. And then it wasn't until another, week or so that I finally started to come to and like saw family and friends stop by, um, and then it was just a matter of like, oh, what does life look like now for me? How does this? What happens
Yeah.
now?
Like, what did the
Yeah.
doctors tell you when you woke, when you finally were like, after that week and a half? Like, what are they telling you?
Yeah, I mean, so I lost. Yeah, I guess it's true. Y'all can't see me, but basically lost both legs above the knee. My left side's a little shorter than my right, and then I had hand and arm injuries. Yeah, it's this arm. So like degloving on here, and then hand amputation, and fingers got kind of messed up. And But outside of that, it was I was very fortunate that I didn't have traumatic brain injury. I didn't have any kind of other internal gut or like I don't know other issues that could have been more serious. It was mainly just extremity issues. So they basically said we're going to keep doing what we can to clean all of your wounds the best we can, and once we get you stable, then you'll get to decide where you want to go for rehab. And that's honestly, I was not in a place to choose. I didn't know what to do or where to go, and so I turned that one over to my parents, and they were helping take care of me. They were at the hospital nonstop. I think I was there for like a month, um, and and I essentially was like, "You guys pick. You guys talk to whoever you need to talk to, and just tell me where I'm going because I have no idea what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Um, so they had heard about the Center for the Intrepid in San Antonio, Texas, which is at the Fort Sam Houston, or it's like just off of it. Um, and it's a great rehabilitation facility for individuals that have been severely injured through the military. And so I went, that's where I went. And I think honestly, that is where I started to kind of realize like they did such a good job of helping me see what I was capable of and helping me to see what I could do. And they didn't tell me, you know, what I couldn't do. They just, if it was something that they weren't sure, they'd say, well, we could try and figure it out. And then it was there when I started playing sled hockey. As a kid in junior high, I started playing roller hockey. And then once I got to high school, I played ice hockey for my high school. And I mean, it's funny kind of being in Arizona playing ice hockey. But I didn't want to play football or baseball because it was in 100 and some degree weather. I'm like, I want to
Yeah.
be in the rink.
Yeah.
And so so when I was in San Antonio going through rehabilitation and kind of just learning what life was going to be like again, that's where I started to see myself as an athlete. On Fridays they would have us doing sports, and one of the sports that came up was sled hockey, and I hadn't heard about it. This was before para sports was really. I mean, and this what would we just say? This was only 15 years ago. Para sports was really hard to find on the internet. Like you couldn't Google sled hockey and see what you can today. Like you
Yeah.
would Google sled hockey and it would be like one newspaper story. And at that point, I think the by the time I had finally figured it out, like Team USA had just won gold in Vancouver with the sled hockey team. And so anyway, they had a practice there locally with the team that they had locally in San Antonio for injured veterans, and they said, "Hey, did you play hockey before?" And I was like, "Yeah." Well, that was actually a physical therapist that asked me, and I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, you should come. You should come try it." And that's kind of where the fear of especially after being hurt, the fear of like, well, or I guess not even hurt, but just in a different just different now than I was as a kid playing. It's like, well, what is this going to look like? What is this going to be like? Um, and I went and watched a game. They happened to have a tournament, and I wasn't ready to play because my hands were still kind of messed up. Um, and they were like, "Well, just come watch." And I did. I came out, and like the smell of the rink felt the same. It smelled the same, and the just the like cold air when you go in the rink that felt the same. And then when I got to the rink and I looked over the boards because I'm in my wheelchair, right? Like I looked over the boards and they're like slamming into each other and they're hitting each other. And I didn't see anybody. There was nobody that looked disabled. Like they were flying on the ice, like full contact style. Oh, it's like football or I mean, it's hockey. It's just
Yeah.
hockey. It is what it is. And I was like, no, this is legit. Like this is something yeah, I want to do this.
What is sled hockey? I don't even, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, so it's essentially like it's legit hockey as a game, ice hockey, but you're sitting in a sled. It's and or sledge as it was originally called by the Swedish. Um, and it's essentially a metal frame with a bucket on top, and then you have two blades underneath, and then and so that's what you're sitting in, and so your legs can, if you have legs, they would sit on top of the frame.
Mhm.
um, and then you have two sticks that if you were to visualize like holding the sticks, if I'm sitting on the ice, the blade part that you hit the puck with, you're holding in your hand, and on the other end, which would normally be like the top of the hockey stick, there's these little spikes. It's like a metal picks that you attach to the stick, and so that's how you skate. You hold two sticks and you propel yourself around the ice by hitting the ice with those
Like,
picks.
is it like skis? Like,
Kind of, it's like kind of like skiing, but but they're like mini hockey sticks.
yeah.
um so it's awesome. Yeah, you got to watch it. It's legit. It's super fun to see, and you know it it's hockey, so it was awesome to find that, and then start to visualize myself as an athlete again, and start to realize like, oh, just because I'm hurt, like opportunities aren't over. Like it doesn't mean that my life is done. I just have to sit on a couch for the rest of my life. Like there's still opportunities. And honestly, as a para athlete, I feel like more opportunities. When you're a young kid growing up playing sports, if you're not good, like you just start playing at the Y. Like you know what I mean? Like you don't go past that. Whereas
That's me. That's
yeah.
the average
So like
person.
right. And within para sports, I feel like, it's there's only so much of us, and it's such a niche thing. There's so many of us, and there's such a niche thing. And if you do want to be an athlete, there is competition, and it is competitive. Um, like legit sports, you have to put the time and the effort in. Um, but there is more, I feel like there is more of an opportunity to be able to do the sports that I would have never gone to the Olympics for ice hockey before being injured. So it's really cool to now be able to have these kinds of opportunities.
So that first time you went to the ice, you said your hands were still messed up, so you couldn't play. When did you finally start playing?
Yeah, it wasn't until like it was like, I don't know, basically the summer of that season. So that would have been 2000, like it would have been like summer 2010. Um, and then I think I started playing that season because I made the USA team in the summer of like 2010 or 2011, I think. Yeah. So because it was after the game. So um, I had played for about it. I had played for a little under a year before going to tryouts in 2011 and making the national USA team, which was kind of funny because I was working hard. Guys like Rico Roman, Jen Lee, and tons of others. Like we would work hard and practice a couple times a week. Um, but it was funny because when I went to tryouts, the coaching staff was like, "Look, we can tell that you can see the game." Like, and it was because I had played it before. Like I could see where the puck was going. I could see the play developing. I could like kind of feel where I needed to be. But they were like, "But you're not, like, you need to still be working, and we'll take you because that's the hardest thing to teach, is to how to understand and read the game. It's like one of the hardest things to teach, and if you've already got that, that's huge." They were like, "But you need to keep working." And I was, and I, prior to being injured, like I didn't even know what the Paralympics was. I had sort of heard about it, but it's not like today. I feel like Paralympics is so much more well known today than it was before, which is awesome because I feel like the more individuals that have disabilities understand that they are able to go and compete for their country and serve their country in this capacity. um, it's just super cool, and yeah, I love it.
Do you remember? Do you remember your first game? And if you do, how did you do? Did you do well?
Oh man, my first sled hockey game. was bad. I mean, it kind of was like it was like my first ice hockey game as a kid. I remember getting laid out on my first ice hockey game as a kid. Like skated across the ice, like off the bench, skated across the ice to pick up a puck, touched the puck, turned, and was just laid out like some other kid, high school kid, just absolutely demolished me. And it, it was very similar in sled hockey where there's all these guys that have been playing for 10 plus years, and I get out there and I feel like I'm doing decent, but they're just running me over, taking the puck from me, and I think a lot of it has to do with nerves and like feeling like you don't have enough time, like you gotta rush, everything feels so fast, and it's like the more you play, the slower the game gets, and so it's yeah, it was not good, but I'm glad I stuck with it and kept playing.
Yeah, what do you think made you want to keep playing?
Honestly, I'm just super competitive. Like I don't even I feel like I'm most competitive in the stuff that is, the silly little games that you get into with your friends. Like I will be so competitive about that. And that's where I feel like I like having fun in a way that pushes me. And and it's just something about the intricacies of these sports that I do. Like I've moved on now to playing or to doing triathlon, and like most recently I went to the Paralympics for Nordic skiing, and hoping to be able to be there again at this next Paralympic Games. And then also recently started playing wheelchair basketball here in Boise with the local team, just because it's so much fun to have that camaraderie and have that team feeling that you got buddies that you can kind of mess around with. And but I think ultimately what drives me is those little intricacies, the little things that you realize while you're doing it, that like, oh, if I did it like this, I might be a little bit faster. Or when I'm passing the puck, if I don't pass it right, the as soon as I do it, like, oh, I want to try it again. Like what do I got to do to get it perfect, or what do I have to do to get it as close to perfect as possible? I think it's those little games within the game that really drive me. And then just competitively, like if I can have fun with others and talk some trash and play sports, like it's just so much fun to me.
Yeah, me too. That's what I think a lot of us like sports for, right? It's like
Right.
competitive. So 2011, summer 2011, you played for your first game. When did you like become good? Like did you like have a really good off season and you just like got a lot better?
No, I don't think so. I don't really even know. I don't even at the Paralympic Games in 2014, my first games, and was fortunate enough to score the game-winning goal in the gold medal match. Like I don't even think I consider myself good at that time. I was still even telling Declan Farmer, who still plays, and he's quite possibly the best sled hockey player in the world right now. I was telling him in the locker room during the first intermission, like, dude, you got to get us a goal. Like, we need to get on the scoreboard. Like you can do it. Like, let's do it. But go score for us. And so when it happened, like when I scored, it was just kind of one of those things where it was all muscle memory. Like when I was playing, it literally was just playing the way that I had practiced so many times before. And it's funny because you always think these guys that do these great things, or score these game winning goals, or hit the hit the shot at the buzzer. You think like, oh man, they're amazing players. They just have a way of like doing the right thing at the right time. And it's like, well, not really. They've just been working so hard, and they've been doing like maybe that exact scenario. They've done that so many times before. Maybe they've practiced, shooting at the buzzer so many times before, and they've probably missed a ton of them, but that one they made, and that's what you're seeing, right? Because that's what's like, oh, this is amazing. So everybody likes to share that moment. But honestly, like I just feel like I consistently tried to get better every single time I was on the ice, and push myself and push the other guys on the team so that we could go and we could win. Like, I didn't want to go there just for fun. Like, I wanted to go and win. And so I feel that I just was fortunate enough to be able to score that goal. I don't think it was I don't necessarily know that it was meant for me to do, but it happened, so I'll take it.
If it happened, it must have been meant for you, I guess.
Right.
Oh wow. So fast forward to now, like you're still playing, I guess, right? You're still in the Paralympics?
I'm going to or well, let me not get ahead of myself. I kind of had to switch gears. So I stopped playing sled hockey when my two kids were born. I've got two kids at 6 and 8, and they're great. But I found that it was really hard to be able to manage playing sled hockey, being gone all the time, and also be able to be like a dad for my kids and take care of them the way I wanted to.
Mhm.
So I had to start to and it wasn't easy. Like at first it was really hard to not go play sled hockey, especially after like kind of like I was saying, like I never considered myself a great player, like like I didn't feel like at any point in time I felt like, oh dude, like I got it made. But I was like, man, I'm really on a roll. Like I'm doing great. Like I'm having fun. I feel like I'm like contributing for the team. Like this is awesome. And then when, my son was born, having to kind of take a step back, and I took that season off. And after I went back the next season, it was different feel. I just kind of felt like, it wasn't right anymore. It didn't feel like it was. I wanted to be at two places at the same time, and you just when you want to be that playmaker and contribute to the team in the way that I wanted to, like I couldn't do that. I had to be all in. So that's when I took a step back, and I just started focusing on training, just having fun. And as I was hand cycling and doing some swimming, I realized like, oh no, I was watching an adventure race like season of shows where these guys were just doing these crazy adventure races. Um, and one of them was a triathlon, and I was like, I could probably do a triathlon, like swim, bike, run. Like all I'd have to do is learn how to use a racing wheelchair, but like I think I could do that. And I started looking at times, and that's when I was like, shoot, I'll give it a go. Like I'm competitive. This is fun. I like doing these three things individually, or two things at the time. Now three things. Like it would be cool to put it together and see what I could do. Um, and so I went to my first triathlon down in Florida for representing the United States, and won. I was super excited about that. And that was in 2019. So this is like right before COVID hit, or 2018. And before COVID hit, and I was training and I was working hard, and I went to Tokyo for the test event for the Paralympics, which is the year before, like trying to essentially make a run at going to the games for para triathlon. And went to world championships, got like 11th place, which is not great at all, but was cool to still be involved in doing it. And then
11th
COVID hit.
place sounds good to me. I mean,
Right. um
for the
and
Olympics.
yeah, well, and then COVID hit, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, like it was kind of another setback of like, well, what am I doing this? Am I not doing this? And ended up moving to Boise shortly after things started to open back up. I was in Portland at the time. It was moved to Boise in 2020, and Challenged Athletes Foundation was having a Nordic skiing clinic. So I went to this Nordic sit skiing clinic and tried out Nordic skiing. It's very similar to sled hockey in the way that you propel yourself on the snow, and the way that you move. And so I was like, I'll give it a try. Had a lot of fun. Kind of the same story, right? Like looked at my times of doing some training stuff, and was like, oh, I think I could be competitive at this. And went to what was a World Cup at the time in Salt Lake City, and did well enough to where I was like, shoot, I think I could make like the USA team and go to the Paralympics. And that, I was fortunate enough to have that happen, where I got to go to the Paralympic Games in Beijing in 2022, 2022. for Nordic skiing, which was a totally different experience. Like, going in 2014 with the sled hockey team was awesome. It was fun. It's a team. It kind of just feels like you're on a trip with your best buds and you're going to go play these super hard games. But we're a team, and then skiing was different in that, like, well, one, I knew I wasn't going to medal. I knew I wasn't going to be anybody near the top. But then also, like, you're an individual athlete and you are on a team, like you are Team USA traveling with other Nordic skiers. Um, but it's just like a different dynamic. It's still cool. It's still awesome to be able to go. And ultimately, the reason I love doing it is because I love representing the United States of America. Um, I didn't choose to get out of the military. I was injured and then was basically like, all right, well, that's done. Let's see what I can do next. And so being able to go back and you know be able to represent my country again in a new capacity, but still on a world stage is something I love doing. Especially being competitive. Like if there's any chance I could put the USA close to the top, like I'm gonna try. So
Yeah.
it was awesome to be able to go and represent my country and have fun. But I'm hoping doing some good training the next couple of years, maybe I can make it back in 26 and do a little better than I did last time.
So is that what you're doing now? It's like mostly training?
Yeah, mostly training for Nordic sit skiing, and I'll do a little biathlon from time to time. Just kind of depends on what the races are having, but it's yeah, it's fun. It's cold. It's like kind of miserable, uh, but
Fun, it's
it's
cold and miserable.
right. But it's like fast, and it's you're flying, and you're like it'll be 20 degrees out and the snow is I love like 20-degree race days. And it's crazy to think about because I'll be in like a, dry fit t-shirt
Really?
and or like a long sleeve dry fit t-shirt type thing because you have to work so hard to go as fast as that I'll be sweating. And so it's crazy, but you're out there and you're just flying across the snow, sometimes ice in the woods, doing these races and outside of that, I mean, I think the training is just awesome and that I do get to get out and I've started doing more gravel hand cycling on a hand cycle, which I kind of feel like helps me get back out to places that I wouldn't normally go in a wheelchair, right? Like so on dirt roads, kind of in the middle of nowhere, or on the ski trails, in between the trees, and the snow soaks up all the sound, so it's just got a really peaceful. It can be a peaceful ski unless I'm actually doing like sprints or something. Then it's not, but um,
Yeah.
it's awesome to be able to get out and about while also being competitive and training but yeah, that's kind of my life right now. I'm full-time training. I also started a business recently where it's called JS Adaptive Sports, where I am making Nordic sit skis and essentially just trying to fill the holes in the adaptive sports market or adaptive sports equipment market where some of the bigger manufacturers that make hand cycles or whatever, um, it's harder for them to be able to do like custom things for certain individuals just because they don't have the manpower or the time or whatever. And so I'm just trying to make those other little custom pieces that they might need. um,
Is it like
so
making specific equipment or is it like a service that you're providing?
yeah, it's I guess both. I mean, like if somebody calls me and has questions about like, hey, here's how I ride my hand cycle. What kind of gearing or what do you think I should run for, a drivetrain or like what wheels or tires? Like I'm happy to do. I mean, I don't really like charge for stuff like that. I just like talking to people about stuff that'll help them. But when it comes to like making stuff, so like I just made a kid's hand cycle the other day I say the other day, it was finished the other day. It took me like months, but it was a kid's hand cycle for a kid in Chicago that needed one but he wanted like a smaller hand cycle. He didn't want to buy a bigger one, and he wanted it to look cool and this and that. And so worked with them to be able to get him that, and then like Nordic sit skis. There's only so many people that make them, so I've been making those. And then I guess the other main thing that I make is a bracket that allows you to hang a kicker, which is like a Wahoo kicker, which is a like a turbo trainer, or a like you attach your bike to it, to an indoor trainer, I guess is what it is. Like I make one of those, a bracket that you can buy that attached to the bracket, so you can hang it upside down, so that you can attach like any hand cycle to it.
So everything's
Because
custom. Everything's custom to the individual.
yeah, for the most part, like the brackets, you can pretty much get away with, like if you have a hand cycle and you buy it, you can use it. It'll basically fit with any hand cycle. But when it comes to other stuff more specific, like it's like, well, what do you need? How can I help you? Like, let's figure this out. And it's cool. It's time consuming, but it's fun. I like doing it. And I also have found throughout the last 15 years, I have found that equipment can make or break you as an adaptive athlete. Like we literally need our equipment to be performing at the best that it possibly can, because if it's not, then it's hindering our ability to perform. Like you could have somebody that's an amazing athlete, but their racing wheelchair is just not, maybe it's too long, maybe it's too wide, it's not exactly what they need, or maybe they need to be a little further back on the axle. Like it's those little tweaks that can take you from being middle of the pack to performing at the top. So that's what I found, and that's what I'm passionate about, helping people figure out, because I hate the thought that somebody's not able to perform or achieve their goals simply because they don't have the access to the equipment that would help them do that. So just trying to bridge that gap, I suppose.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you're doing good work.
Thanks. Trying.
We're wrapping it up in a minute, but I want to ask, what is like your website or your social media that we could, contact you or follow your journey on?
Yeah, at the Josh Sweeney is my Instagram, and then my website is jsadaptivesports.com, and then it's at jsadaptivesports for Instagram. And yeah, I'd love for people to hit me up and ask me all kinds of questions that they might have. I mean, I'm happy to help.
Awesome, man. Yeah, definitely. Before I let you go, I got a question. What is some advice you'd give to maybe someone who went through something similar? They stepped on an IED and they lost a limb or two, and what's some advice you would give your past self?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I would give to anybody that's going through any kind of big life-changing event and doesn't know what the future holds is to just respect the process. So many times I see guys, girls, myself included, see something they want and they just want to, they want it so bad. And when it doesn't happen overnight, they start to doubt whether or not they can achieve it, or whether or not they can do it, or if it's even worth trying to accomplish. And I feel like over these past 15 years, it's all been about respecting the process, that things take time, that you have to put the work in, you have to take the rest days that you need. You got to listen to your gut, listen to your body, and really just understand that things don't happen overnight. And then also just surround yourself with amazing individuals that are willing to help you out. That's been huge. Support system is huge, whether that's individuals that you need to talk to for help, or if you have something you're going to get into. Like when I started this business, I didn't do it by myself. I mean, I had 3 or 4 other people I was bugging nonstop. And so surround yourself with those kinds of people that can help you, and that you can also turn around and help as well. And it will make things feel so much easier.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Solid advice. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for
no
joining
problem.
us today.
All right, appreciate it.
Everyone else, thank you again for listening to another Fighter Heart podcast. We will see you again next week.